Welcome to the Intuitive Ascending Mind podcast with your host, Alia Yasmin Khan. Throughout this series, you'll learn how cultivating a growth mindset can unlock your true potential and impact every aspect of your life. Join Alia and her guest each episode as they dive deep into strategies for personal development and lasting transformation. Now, here's Alia.
Welcome, everybody, to the Intuitive Ascending Mind podcast. Joining me on today's show is Micah Watkins. Micah is the owner and partner of ENO, a networking agency that does personal growth and development all together under one umbrella. And I'm very excited to have him on the show today. Micah, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Micah, tell me a little bit about your journey. What brought you on this path to this business and this company? Like what called you to it?
That is a wild story of lots of twists and turns. I found myself relocating, getting out of corporate America, and I got into the insurance business. And the company that I was with, they told everyone, "Hey, look, work harder on yourself than you do your business. Focus on a lot of personal growth. Here's a bunch of books to read. Here's some stuff to listen to." And I jumped in and I started, and I loved it. I was finding out a lot about myself, and I was finding out a lot about the world, and one thing led to another, and I just kept growing and growing. And my now partners, my partner Jack, he had this self-awareness, personal development, experiential weekend courses that he did. And, I was networking. I was just an insurance guy networking around, and I had this free seat to attend his class, and I did so. And when I walked out of there, I distinctly remember saying, if everyone knew this, the world would actually work.
Wow.
I was like, why? And then the big question that I had was, why doesn't everyone know about this?
Hmm.
So, that's what got me started. I plugged into the work, and I just did all the courses, and in that span of time, in a very short amount of time, I saw my business double. Then I doubled it again, and I saw the impact that it was making, not only on me, but in the with some of the participants that I was in some of these courses with. I developed some great relationships, great friendships, and watched them increase what they were doing and expand in all the things that they were doing. And so really fell in love with it, and then started training how to facilitate those weekends, and really diving into the work and really understanding it so that I could, be there for people while walking them through the experiential weekends and everything that we do. So that's kind of how I got here.
And that's
So
that's an awesome story. You said something that really kind of struck me. Why don't more people know about this? I feel like that's a question I really kind of sit with because I try to get as much of this out to as many people as possible. And I think a lot of people get it confused. They think that it's about being positive all the time. And it's not about necessarily being positive all the time. It's about neutralizing the negativity that actually like exists in the world. And to me, that's been the biggest challenge is because people tend to just have these limiting belief systems. And so insurance is what got you to personal growth and development to begin with.
yeah,
It's interesting.
yeah, yeah. Just decided to do insurance. I don't know why. It just I had been around the industry for a little bit prior to getting out of corporate America, and um, understood it. So I was like, well, I could do this, and it sounds easy. It's like, oh yeah, you just got to go make a couple of sales, and it's a lot more difficult than it really sounds, and you really have to develop a mental fortitude
Mm.
to just keep pushing forward, and get over the rejections, and not take things personally, all that. So it really was a good testing ground to really put the work to work,
Mhm.
so to say. Um, Yeah, what you were saying though with why don't people more people know about this? I think a couple of the biggest triggers right now that you hear is toxic positivity.
Mm,
And yes, that's absolutely obnoxious. Nobody wants to just sit there and deal with somebody who's just like, oh, and bubbly and like in your face about it. It's kind of gross, right?
yeah,
Um, but like to what you were saying, it's about neutralizing, and coming from a different mindset.
yeah.
And I really dived into this book. It's called Power versus Force.
Mm,
And that book, it's got a lot of great information in there. And the map of consciousness that they put together, they're a bunch of scientists. And they what they were doing was they were figuring out what weakens people, right? And through muscle testing. So through muscle testing, they were figuring out like what's weakening people and all of that. And they were able to put up together this map of consciousness, absolutely astounding. When you look at it, it really is just a map of thoughts.
mm,
It's a hierarchy of thoughts and the thoughts that we normally have and the feelings associated with those thoughts. I would say most of the world, unfortunately, we just naturally operate in the lower portion of the map of consciousness. So we're in the force part, right? And those would be feelings like fear and grief,
mhm,
uh, anguish, pride, anger.
mhm.
Those are a lot of the feelings and vibrations that it just comes natural. Just dealing with life. It just, we tend to lean towards that direction.
Mhm.
And then like how you get up above it and all that? Well, it's through personal growth, self-awareness training. And it's one of the things that they state in the book. So
Yeah, one thing that I like to point out to people, I said if you're dealing with too much negativity or you're observing too much negativity, it's positivity that you kind of have to pour a little bit on it. But likewise, like if you're way too positive, you have to be realistic about life. You got to pour a little bit of that negative balance back in because like you also have to I think neutral is the best space to be in. It's not about, but it's about that self-regulation to get yourself to neutrality that I think is necessary and important. Um, I know you understand this emotional intelligence, this EQ part, quite a bit. Can you share a little bit with us about it?
yeah, well, what exactly do you want to know about EQ?
I want to know how it's worked in your life, how you learned about it. Talk about it. Share with
Well,
everyone.
okay, well, so I'll start by saying, like, so how it's impacted me is one, it's made me more effective in communication. It's made me, it made me more effective in the relationships that I had, relationships with my spouse,
Mhm.
relationships with friends, relationships with siblings, family, and then relationships with clients as well. And probably the biggest takeaway is when you're coming from a high EQ, you're at a place where you're not taking things personally.
Right.
We can go there. Like that's like by default, that's just kind of where we want to go. Be like, oh yeah, and then we can go and spin on like, oh, all of these, things that we might conjure up in our minds, when they're not even based in reality. We're just spinning, right? But
Yeah.
that's what happens when we take things personally. And when you do the work and you raise your EQ, you just get to a place where you understand that, look, anything I do is not a result of you. It's just I'm just operating, in my best interest. The people out there, they're doing is operating in their best interest for them. And really, here's probably the best way to describe it. Everyone's the center of their own movie, right?
Yes.
They're their own movie star.
Yeah.
So like you can relate it to any show. Let's take the show Seinfeld, right? And Jerry in there, he's the star of the show.
Hmm.
And he's got his co-stars, and you got Jason Alexander, and you got you know Kramer, and you know
Yeah.
all those people that play all those George Costanza. That's Jason Alexander's character, right? Those are all the co-stars. And then every once in a while, you got the character like Newman. He pops in every once in a while, right?
Hmm.
The same thing goes for our lives, right? We're just, hey, look, I'm the center of my movie. And right now, you're kind of like, you're just one of those characters that popped into my movie for a moment.
Yeah.
And you might hang around for a bit. You might be there for a couple episodes. You might just be a one-time episode. It could be, maybe all of a sudden you become a long time standing character, right?
Hmm.
Um, on the flip side, if I go to my spouse, she's the star of her own movie, and I'm just the co-star in her movie.
Hmm.
And then there's the background people and all of that. So I really I found that when you raise the EQ up higher, you can come from that perspective and just understand, hey, look, I'm not going to take anything personally. You're just operating and doing what you need to do that's best for you.
Yeah. There's a quote, and I think it's Thomas, but I can't remember his last name, that says, my mind is the center of divine operation. And it really speaks to what you're saying. Like, we are the center of that consciousness that can decide to frame something however we choose to, depending on what's presented to us. So we get a conscious choice as to how we're going to look at the situation. We get a conscious choice to say, is this person attacking me, or is this person just was trained to behave in that manner because that's what they observed, like in their younger years or in childhood, or that's what they determined to be normal behavior? Or are they attacking me? And sometimes if we can kind of stand back and say, like, okay, they're trained to respond in this manner, that's a them issue. That's not a me issue. It's a me issue if I then, lower my vibrational frequency and decide to react back to them. um, then I've sucked myself into their realm. And we have a choice in that. I don't think a lot of people realize that they really have a choice in this, in how they're going to respond to others. And for that reason, like, I just feel like getting as much of this knowledge out to folks is just so important.
Absolutely. So, in our courses, one of the things that we constantly reiterate to people, because it's all self-awareness. Through awareness leads conscious choice, right? I'll say it again, like through awareness leads conscious choice. So when we get into this world, we're programmed in a certain way, and I don't know that we get to choose the belief systems that are given to us. It's kind of by default, it's whatever's given to us, and we're stuck with that, right?
Right.
We're not stuck, yet it's the illusion that we're stuck with
Mhm.
that belief system.
Mhm. Mhm.
But with all the work, you come to the point where you're like, okay, the more aware you are, then you can start being very specific about what you're choosing in your life, what you choose to believe in, what you choose not to believe in, all that, and you can reframe beliefs. That's another thing. That's a whole conversation that I don't know if you want to go there or not, but
I mean, I kind of do, because we talked about this when we chatted in person. But yes, you can reframe beliefs. You don't have to hold on to a certain set of beliefs, because those beliefs may not be rooted in truth. Those beliefs could be based on somebody else's perspective that was the adult lead in your life at that point in your life, and you accepted what they said to you. But as an adult, you know, I think a lot of people think that your education years are like, when you're growing up. It's not really your education years. Your education years is when you become an adult and you start rewiring the programming that was given to you when you were younger. That's really your education years, like, is in adulthood, to fix false narratives that were fed to you in childhood, because that's exactly what you experience. A ton of false narratives that are pushed upon you, whether it be through society or parents or, and everybody has the best intentions. I don't think their intentions are bad, but I think their intentions, they have a desire to protect, their children, and sometimes negative things are impacted onto their mind as a default. And the subconscious mind just downloads everything. Let's touch on beliefs again. How do we rewire or reprogram beliefs? What is your, how do you identify them, and how do you change them if something needs to be changed?
Well, one, it would, I think it would be key first to get a clear understanding of what is a belief. All right. Now, let me, if you're okay with it, I'm just going to share a little quick story.
Sure.
There are plenty of people out there, and Steve Harvey probably does it the best, right? Is sharing this story, but it's very, it kind of will tie into what I'm talking about. So there's, if I take a mayonnaise jar, right? And I set that off to the side. And then I go and I'm gonna find the animal that has the highest vertical on the planet. Do you know what that animal is?
Giraffe.
No, they can like the vertical, so their jump
Oh, the
is
jump.
like the highest vertical
Uh,
on the planet.
uh, I don't know. Kangaroo. I don't know.
Yeah, so, something like that, right? Maybe Michael Jordan, right? But it's actually the flea. The
Okay.
flea, in comparison to its size, if the flea can jump 36 inches,
Wow.
right? So when you look at the size of a flea and it can jump 36 inches, if we were to give that to us, we would be, we'd be flying sky high,
Yeah.
we'd be leaping buildings if we had that kind of vertical, right?
Mhm.
Comparative to our size. So if I take a flea and I put it into a mayonnaise jar, right? That flea is just going to pop right out of there because it knows instinctually that it's got a 36-inch vertical.
Mhm.
Now, if I put a lid on that mayonnaise jar, now that flea is going to sit there. He knows he's got a 36-inch vertical, so he's just going to jump, jump, jump. And what's he doing? He's hitting his head,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So he's hitting his head, and then all of a sudden, at some point, the flea's going to go, "Oh, this doesn't feel good. I'm gonna jump just high enough to not hit my head on the mayonnaise jar."
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So then you've got that happening. Now I can undo the lid and that flea won't jump out. They've done this test. We've done this test. The flea won't jump out of the mayonnaise jar because it's now trained and conditioned itself to only jump so high. Yet it instinctually it has a 36-inch vertical. I can grab some more fleas, put them in there. They're going to do the same thing. They're just going to bang, bang, bang till they hit their heads. They're going to hit the pain point when they're like, all right, this hurts too much. Now I'm just going to jump high enough. And maybe they decide to create little baby fleas. Now we got little baby fleas, and they're watching the other fleas. The baby flea instinctually has a 36-inch vertical, yet it's only going to jump as high as the other fleas in the jar. And
Right.
I can undo the lid, and they're never going to jump out of the mayonnaise jar.
Yeah. That's a great
The
example.
Well, absolutely. So here's the thing. Here's what we've discovered about beliefs. Beliefs are the lid on the mayonnaise jar for the human.
Mm.
Empowering beliefs and disempowering beliefs. Anytime you put a belief on something, it puts you confined into a box. Because I can say, well, I believe this, and now it eliminates all other opportunities. It just nope, it's just boop, I'm just focused on this. So let me ask you the question, what is a belief?
What is a belief? A belief is, I believe it's a repetitive thought that we tell ourselves that we hold as truth. To me, it's a repetitive thought system that we have so embedded, deeply embedded into our subconscious, that we hold that as our truth. That's what a belief means to me.
But it definitely describes what they do, right? But what is it?
Um, an observation? I don't know.
So belief, get this, following you with this, a belief is nothing more than an agreement you make with information,
Mm, I love it.
right? So what is information?
I mean, information's just information until you make it a belief, right?
Well, like the information is language. It's how
It's
we
language.
communicate,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So okay, so yeah, so let me show you this example.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, hopefully there aren't, hopefully there's no little kids out there, like 6 years old watching this, but I'm going to lay out an example. So you come into this world, you're 1, 2, you don't really notice much. Maybe like 2, you start to notice something, but like by 3, you really notice something's happening. And you really there you all of a sudden you really like this day coming up, right? Um, And actually, let me hold on 1 second. Let me back up. Let me back up 1 second. There's an omnipresent being out there. Okay. He's watching you, he's judging you, he's keeping track of absolutely everything that you're doing, good and bad, right, wrong, all that stuff. He's just tracking all of that. And at some point in time, there's going to come a day of judgment. And then and the judgment will be made, and you will either be punished or you will be rewarded. Who am I talking about?
I mean, the majority of religion or faiths that are out there.
Yeah, a lot of that's where most people go with it. Although I'm talking about Santa Claus. Okay, so so again, you come into this realm. You're 1, 2, you don't notice much. You're 3. Now all of a sudden you kind of start to notice, right? You're like, oh hey, not everyone grows up with the Christmas thing, but most people do, right? And
Mhm.
all of a sudden you realize, oh, hey, I like this day, right? And then what do our parents do? They're like, oh, hey, I'm going to give you some information. There's this jolly fat guy. He lives in the North Pole. He's got some little people that make toys. You got some reindeer. They got magic stuff. He's got a wife, right? He's got a big white beard, right? So they're giving you all this information, okay?
Mhm.
And then you have a choice. You say what?
Believe it or don't believe it.
Yeah, you can say, well, I believe, right? So
Yeah.
now I believe in Santa. And Santa's a lie, correct? We know that he doesn't exist.
It's the first lie we tell our kids.
Absolutely. So, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, they're kind of harmless, right?
Mhm.
Because, lose a tooth, hey, sweet, I get $1. Um, Easter Bunny, pretty harmless, just runs around, leaves eggs. But Santa has power,
Mhm.
right? Oh, because it's like, oh, if I don't, I might, if I act up and I'm not on my best behavior with my parents, now all of a sudden, oh, Santa's not going to bring me whatever, right?
You're naughty or nice. There's that
Exactly.
duality.
So now all of a sudden, Santa has power over me
Yeah.
because I believe in it, but it's a total lie.
Hmm.
So one of the things that, the biggest awareness that showed up for me through all this work and understanding this concept was that anytime that I believe a lie, I give my power to the lie.
Hmm.
When I am able to say, oh no, that is not accurate, that's not true, that is a total lie. I don't, oh man, I don't want to believe in that at all. I regain my own personal power.
Hmm.
Because at some point there's going to be that moment in time when like I go, hey, I go and see Santa at the mall, right? Because he tours,
Hmm.
right? Like a rock band, right? Like Zeppelin. He tours like Zeppelin, right? And I distinctly remember that time where it's just like all of a sudden I went, was like, yeah, I saw Santa today, blah 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 blah, and then some older kids were like, you're a baby, he's not real, and then you're devastated.
Hmm.
You're devastated when you find out, like, oh, that's not real. I believed it my whole life, and you're just left just this emptiness. Yet when you understand like, oh, that was a lie, then you regain your own personal power.
Mm-hmm.
Santa holds no power over you now. No, like, oh, okay, well, I can be naughty or nice, and Santa's not bringing me any gifts or not because he's not real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a powerful way to look at it. I've never seen it from that perspective, but it's so spot on about how we view things and how we're manipulated too, like in the process. Because there's a great deal of manipulation, attached to that concept of act a certain way, this is the reward, act a certain way, this is going to be your demise pretty much. I think it's very interesting because a lot of times I see so many people that are limited by their belief systems, and they refuse to break out of the belief system because the belief system is just one of the tightest locks on the jar that I think I've ever seen. It's just so restrictive and does not allow for them to breathe and grow. And to me, that's the biggest disservice that you can give to humanity. Like, to not be operating at full potential is the biggest disservice that you have in this short time that you have on this planet.
Absolutely. Yeah, again, the beliefs, empowering and disempowering beliefs, it all beliefs, it puts you in the box. Now you
Mhm.
can have them, have all the beliefs that you want. You just have to understand that any belief that you take on, it becomes a part of your identity. There are people out there. There were, even when I went through this, there were parts of my identity based on belief system that I had that were not working. They weren't working, and I wasn't effective because of it. So this is where what we were talking about before, part of the reprogramming is going and looking inward, like, okay, oh, I had a belief about this, or I had a belief about that. Oh, it's not leading me to a place of where I want to be. It's not working for me. It's like I don't like that part. There are parts of our identities and our belief systems that we enjoy,
Mhm.
but there's parts that just we don't.
So I want to ask you a question. How can someone, or what was your path along the way in identifying disempowering beliefs and then allowing yourself to reshape your belief system? And what were some empowering beliefs that took you from the realm of disempowering beliefs over to the realm of empowering beliefs?
Well, you know, converting disempowering beliefs into empowering beliefs, just looking for the reciprocal, right? And and then operating from that. It can be effective, right? We can this is the start of where we can all of a sudden there's a couple of experiences that we do within the class that break that out. And I'm not going to divulge all that because it is an experience and I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But there are some moments throughout the weekends that we do in those classes that stand out. And but like there, a disempowering belief is like, oh, I'm too old, or I don't have the money, and okay, well, what are some empowering beliefs that you can offset the disempowering beliefs? Well, I can find the money. I with age is wisdom, right? We can always find the reciprocal of the disempowering belief. The the more impactful thing that I believe, there it is, the word. The more impactful uh, operation of it or breakdown of it would be fully understanding how beliefs work and the different levels of where beliefs operate within the person, right? Because there's various different levels and how people can take a belief with, if we go back to it's just an agreement with information. Yet we can take a belief to the full spectrum of the other side and complete fanaticism, right?
Sure.
And how did you get there, right? Was that your intent, or did it just naturally progress that way? Because they have that power to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you tired of feeling stuck? Unable to reach your personal goals? Imagine unlocking the powerful duality of your mind to propel yourself towards success. With our mental duality guide, you can finally achieve the personal development you've always desired. This guide is not just another self-help book. It's a transformative resource designed to help you harness the hidden powers of your mind, guiding you through the building blocks to create a structured approach to goal setting and achievement. What's in it for you? Clarify your goals. Learn how to define what you truly want in life. Overcome mental blocks. Identify and dismantle the barriers holding you back. Boost your confidence. Develop a stronger belief in your ability to succeed. Achieve consistent progress. Implement strategies that keep you moving forward even when challenges arise. But how do I know this is real? Countless individuals have transformed their lives using our techniques. One user, after applying the principles from the guide, reported a 91% increase in productivity and a newfound clarity in their life direction. Here's the story. Like many, they struggled with conflicting thoughts and feelings about their goals. After engaging with our guide, they learned to balance their rational thinking with emotional insight, leading to breakthroughs they never thought possible. And what are the guarantees? We stand by our guide with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you don't see progress within 30 days, we'll refund your purchase. No questions asked. Why now? The longer you wait, the longer your dreams remain out of reach. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Take action today and start your journey toward personal growth and achievement. What do you have to lose? Nothing but your limitations. Join the ranks of those who have discovered their potential through our mental duality guide. Act now and unlock the door to your future.
Yeah, I think you can cross the line and go too far in one direction or another, which is why neutrality is like the thing that I speak of the most. It's identifying when you're pulling too much in one direction versus another direction. Ultimately, to me, finding your ideal alignment is really the path forward, is to be in alignment with what it is that you're seeking to have unfold in your life. And understanding the dualistic part of your belief system, the dualistic part of thought, the dualistic part of feeling that exists within us when we get anxious or we get frustrated, we get angry, understanding how to bring that back to a place of calm. That duality about life to me is the greatest thing to learn. If when you can learn how to navigate duality, navigate emotions, navigate navigate in your realm with your alignment towards your purpose, your life purpose, what it is that you feel the calling to do. That's where the magic happens, is being able to kind of like, you've got like a ball and you just set it, but there's barriers on both sides so that you keep it within the realm and you don't veer too far off in one direction, because you're ultimately striving to hit that goal, up the alley.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about your goals. What are your goals at this point?
Um, oh man. So, with my partner Jack and my other partner Phil, myself, we're in the process of making this movie. It's going to be titled "Awaken the Masses." We're in production right now, getting that going. Really, a lot of that is "Awaken the Masses," right? That's the title. It's putting this information out there in a way that's digestible, right? That they can, okay, awesome, like start to kind of peel back the curtain of what's really going on here, what we're doing, like who are we? Who are we really, right? Because that is a much deeper question. I'm not just Micah. There's more to that, and and you know through that, through the information that we put out, yeah, there's going to be some people that'll just totally reject it because it goes against their belief systems, right? And they'll just be like, "Oh, this doesn't make sense." Blah blah blah. I don't agree with it. Okay, that's not for them, but it's for the people that are curious. Like, when you have that feeling like there's more to life than what we're doing right now. There's more to life than, waking up and going to a job that we're just like, it pays the bills. And well, is it what you really want to be doing or not? You know, and or did you find yourself in that position just based on circumstance? You're just going through life and one circumstance led to another, or was it based on, forms of beliefs that maybe you really weren't enthralled with, but yet you just kind of went along with it, and you're just feeling like you're not living to your fullest?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what a lot of what we're doing is just we're being a voice of information, and for people that are looking for it, and be able to get it in a way that then they can better their lives and make an impact and become more effective at just what we would call life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people need to learn a lot more about who they are, a lot more about emotional management, a lot more about um, the process of the information that was fed to them in order to question some of their beliefs and some of the knowledge that was given to them. And to me, the it's understanding the mind. It's understanding how your mind received the information to begin with, and then what you decided, what you reasoned with within that mind, and you said, this is true, this is not true, this is true, this is not true. It's that filtration process that you went through at some point in your life. And then making those decisions along the way and not realizing that those belief systems are holding you back significantly. Those thoughts, those feelings, the fear of not taking action is holding you back. The fear of failure. These are all things that just kind of like hold us back and keeps us from there. There is a beautiful alignment though that I believe exists. And I think I've been fortunate enough to experience what that beautiful alignment really feels like, and I want everyone that understands this to experience that beautiful alignment where things just fall into place at exactly the right time, where life just happens the way that it's supposed to. You take the trip when you're supposed to take the trip. You meet the person you're supposed to meet. You do the things that you wouldn't think normally would unfold for you. But if you're in a beautiful harmony on a daily basis, when you're not in a beautiful harmony, that ideal situation could be sitting right in front of your face and you would not have the eyes to see it. And it's those missed opportunities. So to center oneself and to be able to like see with clarity really does require, it requires active meditation. It requires self-actualization. It requires us looking at ourselves and saying, do I have empowering thoughts or do I have disempowering thoughts? Am I negative? Am I positive? Like, do I judge this situation correctly or do I judge this situation incorrectly every time something presents itself to us? But it's quite a journey along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to put it in a different way, just I would say, there's victim mindset and there's responsible mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And through a lot of this work, I've learned that, hey, look, there's all times where we want to come from the place of victim. We can recognize it in others, but usually we don't recognize it when we're doing it ourselves. And vice versa. The other people be like, oh man, like oh yeah, you're kind of coming from that victiminess, right? Nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm.
There are perceived benefits to coming from that mindset. There are people that live their entire lives in that mindset and they kind of just get by and they're functioning and all that. And then there's others that come from a place of, responsibility, mindset, right? And I would say, like, okay, if there are people out there that are living their lives, just fine. They're they're not really hurting anybody. They're just kind of operating. They're just doing their thing, but they're kind of always the victim in a lot of situations. Why why not do that? Because it's really easy.
Mhm.
It's really easy to kind of come from that place. It doesn't require a whole lot of work. It doesn't require really any insight into oneself. And it doesn't.
Right. You
So
could just blame
why?
the other person.
Absolutely. So where's the incentive to move to the other side, to go full spectrum from, over here to then like, hey, I'm responsible and I'm self-aware and all that. Like, where's the incentive? And I would say the incentive would be quality of life. The quality of life from a person that's coming from a place of responsibleness, right? And in all situations. Like for me, like what a lot of the times when I'm confronted with a situation, it's just where's my part in it? I look for what can I control? What do I need to transmute to wisdom?
Mhm.
Where's my part? And if people can isolate that and be like, oh, okay, you look at the situation, and then this also comes back down to beliefs too. Like I could be like, let's say I'm upset at my kid for not cleaning his room, right? Well, I can be like, oh, hey, oh man, I'm all upset. He's not cleaning his room, and okay, well now all of a sudden there's all these list of beliefs there, and where's my part in it, right? So okay, well you can start looking breaking down the beliefs and be like, oh, so I have a should or a shouldn't tied to that, like oh he should know better to clean his room. Well, that's just a belief,
Mhm.
right? And is it causing me to suffer? Well, yeah, I'm upset,
Mhm.
right? So you start to look at that, but then on the flip side, it'd be like, okay, well, where's my part in it? Um, well, I could have addressed it in a different way. Maybe I could have said, hey, son, instead of rewarding or punishing you on cleaning your room, why don't we just say, hey, um, we're going to go from a place of this works and this doesn't work. And I change my language that I use. And I
Mhm.
change how the situation in a way where, hey, look, well, here's clean your room and great, awesome. And if he doesn't, it's like, well, did you clean your room? Well, no. Okay, well, that didn't work. You're not, you know, that's not what, that's not really effective, right? But I
Mhm.
could say, hey, look, hey, if you clean your room, you're going to get some ice cream, right? Well, you didn't clean his room, you didn't get the ice cream. You clean the room, you're like, here's some ice cream, right? But it's not coming from, you're showing him like, well, see, you got the ice cream because it worked. It's not a reward for doing it. It's just saying, see, that worked. Now you get to have this,
Yeah.
right? And so it's changing the language on a lot of this stuff. That's just and so it's a lot deeper than just what we're touching base on, but we're covering a lot of ground, on
No,
some
I
big
agree.
topics here.
Yeah, I know language is very, I have this system that I always share with people, like observation, writing, listening, and speech. And language, the language that we use is very important. How we speak, how we address something, how we observe those particles as well. And when I say those particles, I also mean like in a father-son situation, how you observe the particles that he is. If you give him a negative connotation, those particles pretty much line up in that space on a regular basis. And that's why it's necessary, the lens in which we really look at the world with, because we can activate a positive reaction from someone, or we can activate a negative reaction. And for the most part, it's how do you activate the positive reinforcements, because that's what makes people feel good. That's what motivates them to do more of it. Nobody likes to be nagged, and nobody likes to be told do this over and over again. But we'd rather hear, "Oh, you did a great job of doing that. Thank you so much. Can you help me with this?" Like little language with language goes a long way. A little language with the way that you romance the positive, and you don't point out the negative, because if you spend time dwelling on the negative, then that's what you're actually pointing a flashlight on. I usually encourage, like when I'm working with clients, I encourage clients. I said, well, what are you putting? Imagine you're in a dark room and there's several words up on the wall. What are you shining that bright light on? I had this conversation with someone not too long ago, and his whole thing was risk. I was like, why are you shining a flashlight on risk? That means you like the danger. Like, you're not, you should be shining the flashlight on the outcome you want to experience, not the danger associated with the outcome. That's the problem. You're not pointing the flashlight. What is the outcome that you want? Whatever that outcome is, if you put the flashlight in the dark room. And what do I mean by that? Bring your focus, your attention, your immersive action of all your senses onto the thing that you actually want to experience, and not on the thing you don't want to experience. Now you have some level of control, and you're guiding the vehicle in the right direction. And it's a little bit challenging for people to kind of grasp that, I feel like, at times.
Well, here, I'll add on this example to, to what you're saying. Mother Teresa was asked numerous times to have a march against war. And what was her response?
Mm-mm.
No. What did she said something else though.
What did she say?
She said, if you have a march for peace, I'll be there.
Yeah.
See, she understood whatever you give your attention to, that's where your focus is going,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, to march against war, well, you're still marching against war. It's war is still the focus, right?
Yeah.
So when you all of a sudden you shift it to a march for peace,
Mm-hmm.
like now our focus is on peace.
Right.
It takes our focus away from war. Now we're focused on peace. So just those, just even that right there, it's just like, man, that's what made her so powerful, was she understood the focus and attention on what are we doing here,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is the goal? What are the goals? What are, everyone's got all these goals and all that. What is it that you want in this life? And, there's all these, there's plenty of people. I think the big thing now is like the vision boarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, great. Well, what are we doing when we're doing vision boards?
We're creating all the materialistic things, but at least for most people, they're creating the
Yeah.
materialistic things that they want. Through some of the encouragement that I do when I'm working with folks, is that I stress what's actually important to the human being. I stress peace, because regardless, you always want peace in your life. You always want respect in your life. You always want trustworthiness. You always want forgiveness. You always want compassion, and you always want acceptance. So I think if you start building a vision of that for your life, then everything else falls into place, and you always want to be in service to others. When you're providing service to others, that's when you'll be financially rewarded. So when we start to grasp these things about, when we look at it from that perspective, rather than putting the Lamborghini on there or the Ferrari on there and the big mansion, not that those things aren't nice, they're
But
nice.
it could be health, right? It could be health and
Yeah. It could be health
fitness.
as well too. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And by all means, you got to take care of the health as well. But a lot of times, sometimes we get carried away in all the materialistic things, and we don't actually value what actually would make an impact in our lives. Because you could have all those things and still be miserable, because, well, you don't have peace. You have all the material things, but you don't have peace. You have all the material things, but you're not respected. You have all the material things, but you're not trusted. Or you have all the material things and you don't have love in your life. You don't have forgiveness. You don't have forgiveness for others or for yourself. So these are all things that weigh our energetic, our spirit down. And these are things that that we can work on, that we can make our goals, that can lift our spirit up and make us feel good about our life in whatever direction we're heading in.
Absolutely. So where I was getting with the vision board is like, no matter what you put on there, right? You're staring at it constantly.
Yeah.
It's in your face. And
Yeah.
more times than not, most people get the things that are on their vision boards.
Sure.
So I started doing this thing a couple of years ago. It's called the John Gordon One Word Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but yeah, I started doing it a couple of years ago. It's absolutely fantastic because all it was is you go through the process. You got to get his book, and he goes through the process of like how to find how the word finds you. But you get this one word, and then once you got the word, you live it every day. So my first year doing this, it was support.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're living the word support. Like, okay, so you're going through life every day knowing that I've got to implement support each day in things that I'm doing. So it's this thing that's just staring you right in the face and it's just right there. And now all of a sudden you're just finding ways to become more supportive.
I
My
love that
second year
word.
was service,
Yeah, I
right?
love that word because I think like we can always give support to others. And the things that most people don't feel is supported. I know I've
Yeah.
gone through a phase in my life where I didn't feel supported. And I do believe that support is a key word that attention should be brought to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, to what you were saying, on all the attributes of the one wants to become,
Hmm.
right? Then it's, you put those on a vision board and stare at, put them where you can see them regularly every day. And all of a sudden, words are super powerful. They're more powerful than I think people give credit to. They don't realize how powerful our words are, right? What was the saying when we were kids? Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words
Yeah.
will never hurt me. Oh,
Yeah.
no, words can actually completely diminish a child.
Yes.
Completely
Yes.
break their self-esteem and and just destroy that person.
Yeah.
So our words actually do matter and they do hold weight to them. So when we put those words, in front of us of what we want to become or what we want to emphasize, or all that, and you're just staring at it constantly, it does have an effect.
Sure, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think words are very powerful. A lot of people speak words that they don't pay attention to either, as it's like flying out of their mouth. Like they don't even realize that, you know, I've heard like it's like casting a spell, right? So you say something, you're basically like casting a spell, and some people are so thoughtless with the words that flow out of their mouth that it just really ends up being their own demise, like their own negative like energy that they're speaking about themselves or about others in the process. And whether you're speaking about yourself or you're speaking about someone else, that's still reflective on you. So, if we get to a point where we can kind of grasp that, like you sit there and you complain about somebody else, you're basically in essence complaining about yourself and your unresolved ability to resolve that situation with them, in essence.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, I would add to that would be a definition I use for enlightenment, right? Would be the proper use of language. Now, who that has walked this earth, or at least supposedly walked the earth, would you call enlightened? Like truly enlightened?
there's a bunch.
Sure.
Lao Buddha,
Yeah.
Jesus, there's
Yeah,
there's
exactly. There you go. Like the Buddha, Jesus, all that. They were regarded as enlightened beings, right? And if you look at that definition of enlightenment is the proper use of language, how did they use the language? They didn't use the language to diminish themselves or others. They used it in an uplifting way to bring light and peace, and it was vibrating so high that they just didn't use the language in a diminishing or destructive manner. They didn't,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And so if we use that example, now all of a sudden it's like, well, no, this is very attainable. Okay. When you start to focus on using the language properly in a non-destructive manner, what will that create in your life? What opportunities will show up? What will you become more effective?
Yeah.
Right now, all of a
Language is
sudden it's
very
like, oh, it's so exciting.
It is exciting. I think it's very exciting. I hope people listening to this will take away, the importance of language, the importance of, guarding your words and making sure that you're speaking the things you want to experience into your existence.
Well, here's what, yeah, absolutely. 100%. One thing that I found out through all of this work that I've done is I have a knowing of this. I have a knowing we're all creators. And we come into this realm and we've been creating the entire time, the good and the bad. It's up to us to figure out what we're creating and what we want to create. But we are creators. And when you look at that, it's like, holy smokes, because we were created in the image of a creator, right? Every spiritual book says that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's proof. There's proof. Then we go in. I got proof to back it up that we are creators. That's what we do here. But when we look at that, that's where I get so excited because we can create anything that we really want. We got to just look at the beliefs that are holding us back. You got to look at just look at the beliefs in general. And where are you at on the spectrum of belief, right? Because yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. When we first come into this world, we literally are so helpless, like completely helpless. But if you look at the first few years, and I mean like just very few years, like 0 to 4. I have a godson that's like 4 years old now. And I just watch at like his evolution from like holding him as a baby to the quantum leaps that he makes full-on sentences now, understands things, walks, speaks, listens. Like you think of that's a quantum leap from laying, like coming home, like laying down, not even being able to roll over. Like you think about a baby in a true sense of a baby. And that short, really short period of time, that child's able to take themselves from being completely helpless to full on being like potty trained and functional and walking around and like, a little human in 4 years. And we as adults do not make those quantum leaps in our lives. And that's baffling to me because like in 4 years, we could be accomplishing so much more because if we can do that from 0 to 4, like just think about what we could do if we immersed ourselves in the right environment in adulthood in a 4 year period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just understanding the process. When
Yeah.
we come in here as a little baby, we are our true authentic self. We have no information, we have no language. We are just hanging out there, right?
Sure.
But then eventually we start to get programmed.
Yeah.
And then when the programming's happening, you know, that's the beliefs start to happen, and then and then the process starts. So we were in one of our classes, and we had just gotten done talking about the 5 levels of belief and explaining the process that of beliefs and all that. And a person raised their hand. They're like, "Well, how do I get back to being my authentic self?" I was like, you would have to go back to being like a baby, right? Because like good luck, right? Because you would have to completely drop all beliefs to get back to your authentic self. And even then you would you're still not going to be your true authentic self because you got programmed.
Yeah.
The babies, they get, they're authentic for a moment, and then the programming starts and they're no longer authentic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I just found it comical, like, oh, I want to get back to my authentic self. Like, you got to drop all the beliefs, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reel, this Oso guy on, I've seen some reels with him. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's like it's like an Indian guru kind of guy, and he's talking about beliefs, and he's like, well, I don't believe in believing,
Mm,
right?
that's interesting.
And where he's just like eliminated all beliefs. Now, he makes a comment like beliefs are like poison for the mind. Okay. But when you break that down, like that's a belief he has about beliefs.
Beliefs. Yeah, that
So,
intrigues me. That intrigues me when people get to a certain level and they say certain statements like that because see, I have this whole thing like I think our egoic construct pushes us in a certain direction at certain points in our life, right? So like listening to someone speak like that, you have a belief system. That's what you're sharing with people. Even if your belief system is not believing, that's still a belief system. And that's not even possible because there's something you're believing in. If you're attached to the planet, you believe that gravity exists, like you know that this is a thing that is a belief system, like it's real, gravity is a thing, it's there. So I think it's fascinating that people get themselves into this into believing that they have complete control over things like that because you don't have control. You have management over it. You can manage your ego. You don't have control over things, but you can manage them effectively. And the only way that you're able to manage them is through self-awareness. You know, when we become aware of, hey, I would like to achieve this particular goal. Now, the secret to getting to that goal is for me to figure out what belief systems do I have that would keep me from getting to that goal? And it's that, like you said, fortitude, it's that continual push towards that goal that will allow you to weather the storm, endure the tasks, accept rejection, and keep pushing forward in order to get there. And in the process, you're shaping your beliefs along the way because I think every time we give ourselves a goal and it's an outrageous goal and we actually achieve it, it makes us feel so good about ourselves that we start to believe in us, in our ability to do something, in our ability to be the change. And to me, that makes an impact.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts?
Well, it's been awesome coming on here and just having these conversations. I am always love having that conversation about all this kind of stuff because it honestly it's really changed my life. I operate in a completely different capacity than where I was 5 years ago, even 2 years ago. And and you had mentioned something about, just like there, there's part of life. Life is a journey, and there's you just kind of go with the flow of it. I would have never in a million years, 5 years ago, thought that I would be here having these types of conversations, doing some of the work that I'm doing. I just it was not on my horizon. It wasn't in my scope of vision. And here I am doing this and, you know, having some pretty in-depth conversations with amazing people such as yourself and being able to make an impact in other people's lives as well and help them find those opportunities to overcome and program themselves the way that they want to be as opposed to just operating on default and watch them go live their life and
Yeah.
be happy with it. It's just like, oh, it's the greatest reward ever.
It absolutely is. I think it's so rewarding. When you can accomplish it in your life and then you get to gift it to other people's lives, I think that's amazing. And I love your program. I love what you do. I love what your organization does. I love bringing personal growth and development into a networking for business owners and executives out there. I think what you guys do is pretty amazing. And having that personal growth part really sets your branding apart and really has such a good impact on the individuals that do sign up and are a part of it. So thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Thank you for sending all those great thoughts out into the world today. We've got some great content to hopefully help guide some of the individuals that are listening to this show. Thank you, Micah. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.